Educational Center at 1301 East Orange Grove Avenue, Placentia, at exactly 3 p.m. The subject of this call is the request for proposal number 224-15 for the Universal Sports Institute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can I have a roll call, please, Mrs. Buck? Here. Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Youngblood?
Here.
Mr. Frazier?
Here.
And I am here. Please show all board members are in attendance. And can I have an approval of the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the May 14th, 2024 Board of Education agenda. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Frazier, I have a second by Mr. Youngblood. Comments or questions? All right, ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote carries 5-0. This will lead us into our public comment announcement. Public comment will follow directly after this announcement. Forms are available in foyer. It must be completed and turned in prior to the designated time for public comment. We provide a maximum of 30 minutes for public comments, and we have a civility policy for Education Code 220. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nationality, race, or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or any other characteristic that is contained in the definition of hate crimes set forth in section 422.55 of the Penal Code, including immigration status. We have 8 people who are wishing to speak, so each speaker. We may have a missing card, 1 second.
No, you're right. We're at 10.
Okay, we have 10 speakers. That will give everyone 3 minutes each. And so essentially we'll call you up, 3 speakers at a time. You can take a seat in the front row. Our first speaker is David Peterson, Angela Eilers, and Brian Kurzbard. Absolutely.
All right, so glad to be here today to speak in consideration of this RFP. I'm Dave Peterson, 46-year Yorba Linda resident, pastored at 2 Yorba Linda churches for a total of 17 years, and completed 15 years as a high school special education teacher in the inner city. I speak in favor of delaying this vote until a complete budget and operation plan has been completed and made public. The current model has been only incremental in budget approvals. Today's RFP is extensive. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was present at the normal board meeting, and there was no mention of this current proposal. I'm a fiscal conservative. The current rush to action seems to me as contrary to a wise conservative plan. It's also tough to find a parking place today, and at 3 o'clock, it's really hard for people to make it here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've heard coming from several board members and their cycle funds was social media is a wasteland of rumors. If you want facts, email the board. So I did. I asked Dr. Turnus about my rock climbing daughter being a candidate for the USI, and he replied to me initially, thank you. When I had a follow-up question, it was crickets. If you want parents to stop taking to social media for an answer, any answer they can find to make an educated decision, you need to reply to their emails, regardless if you like the question or not. I have sent several emails to all of you. Have any of you responded? I know Mrs. Buck and Mrs. Anderson have consistently replied. Mr. Frazier, I believe, has replied once. The trustee who represents my area has chosen to ignore all of my emails except a very valid question. Don't chastise parents for taking to social media and listening to rumors if you don't have the time or decency to reply to our emails. Our voices matter too. Our children matter too, as much as your loyal supporters' kids. Lastly, you want athletes to stay in this district? How about we pay our coaches and invest in our existing teams rather than bank on booster clubs begging the community for donations to prop up our programs? And when you see some of us have to leave, we do have kids that play sports and we have to leave to go take them to their programs. So instead of chastising us, understand that 3 o'clock is a really inconvenient time for the rest of us.
Thank you. Ryan Hirschberg.
I'm reading this for a Placentia resident, and I am also a Placentia resident. I'm unable to attend the 3 p.m. special meeting that was announced yesterday for the purpose of approving consulting services and the purchase of installation of equipment for the Universal Sports Institute. I request that my public comment be included in the special meeting packet. As a 32-year resident in PYL-USD, I am opposed to this process and project approval for the following reasons. PYL-USD facilities desperately need repair, yet this project will use funds designated for neighborhood schools. It will also recruit out-of-district athletes to the detriment and disadvantage of the majority of kids whom our school board is sworn to serve. I do not support the use of public money for non-secular purposes such as those promoted by the training lab. The attitude and demeanor of our superintendent has been dismissive, arrogant, and disrespectful. In communicating, he seems to believe he has ultimate power to disclose information or not. To those of us who are invested in this community, it is apparent the training lab has a prior relationship with the district superintendent, and this rushed project will benefit pre-selected friends of the district leadership. There has been highly concerning dishonesty regarding what board members tell residents versus actual facts. Scheduling a special meeting to rush a project through at a time of day when most people are working and cannot participate further demonstrates the inequitable process through which the district superintendent and 3 partisan trustees are operating to push this as a pet project that many resident taxpayers do not support. For these reasons, I wish to be on record as being strongly opposed to moving forward with the proposed agreement for consulting and equipment and a special meeting today in opposition. And I am in opposition myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sam Ivich. I'm a taxpayer. I do not support the USI. When the district finally gave us a glimpse into the initial costs of setting up the Universal Sports Institute yesterday, approval of this budget confirmed our deepest suspicions. This request is a way of funneling taxpayer money into a private company over which the district and its elected officials will have little control. The total cost of this venture is obscured behind project fees, a training lab licensing fee that will be renewed annually and balloon next year from $80,000 to $160,000, and consultant and employee dues that will vary from year to year based on unspecified criteria. So today, we will open the floodgates of money toward a program that remains ill-defined and divert millions of dollars from other programs that will already be stressed from upcoming budget restrictions. There is nothing in this request that could not have waited another week in order to give all stakeholders a chance to examine it in detail and ask serious questions about it. Instead, with barely 24 hours notice and at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon, when most parents are either working or picking up their children from school, we will pretend to examine this request. For a board majority that likes to cloak itself in the mantle of parents' rights, this afternoon's meeting is utter hypocrisy. So let's get on with the 3-2 vote and make believe that this was done democratically. Long live Orwell. I'm a taxpayer. I do not support the USI.
being here today. And so I actually would like to express my support towards the USI and that of my family and the community that I speak with. If anything, I would like to ask you to look into options for specialized art schools. Many of us do have very talented and artistic kids, and many of us can't really afford those extracurricular activities. And how wonderful would it be that those children would also have that option? So thank you for putting this forward, and I want to say you have my entire support. Go for it. Thank you. Thank you. Any doctor?
All right, so I've had kids in this district for close to 20 years, and for the last 5 years, I've been coming to the school board meetings. And what I find interesting from the comments is that we've had 3 o'clock meetings before, and 4 o'clock meetings before, and none of them ever complained, especially you two, never complained when they were at 3 or 4 o'clock when people couldn't come. That was our argument too, but we still came, or we just watched it online or whatever we could do. So it's hysterical to hear people complaining about today. The other thing is the budgets that have been approved for so much other nonsense over the last several years has not had as much scrutiny or much transparency with websites and information put out during school board meetings too. Articles in the Orange County Times about everything that's been going on. And yet they're sitting here today and coming up to this microphone and pretending that they don't know what's going on or what's involved in putting together this kind of project. Projects for millions of dollars was put through without any information whatsoever and voted on through the trustees that were in charge at the time. Dr. Chernis, I just want to tell you that I support you along with hundreds of other parents that contact me on a regular basis through my programs that I do on social media. There's a handful of people that are friendly with the cabal of teachers unions of the NEA, the CTA, and the APLE, who literally have a hit list of your character online. And it's just a handful of people, which I think most of them are here. I think that these are all the people that are against the Universal Sports Institute. And many of them have put just nasty words against you. They've never even spoke to you. I've seen them put pictures of your kid online, which is just horrendous, and made claims that are just simply not true. And I want you to know that the community, that is not the community. I am one of many people in the community who love everything that's happening, support the executive staff you put into place, and the 3 majority trustees that are in place. So I just want you to go away from this knowing that the majority is with you and love everything you're doing. Thank you.
Next 2 speakers are Sue Sawyer, D. Lawrence Radler, and Danelle Motley.
I would hope to request that period taken as vacation or whatever it is. So you didn't think I was scheduled to come. I'm offended by the cabal statement. I haven't been able to come to a few other friends that's in the rental life journey, which is much more important than any of this nonsense. But if you're going to remove people from a board meeting for saying carpetbaggers, you should remove them if they call teachers a cabal and other things. It should be across the board. If we're going to have civility, it needs to be everybody, not just the people you don't like. As far as posting pictures, yeah, I did see online an email apology from Alex to a parent because he didn't like what Marilyn had said, and I'm still waiting for my apology letter when Leanna posted my picture on her personal page, which is also a violation of the Brown Act. As for the $250,000 for the software for the Sports Institute, and I don't not support the Sports Institute. I'm not supporting the way it's trying to be rushed through without the full transparency. But $250,000 subscription for 200 students is $1,250 per seat, as opposed to the building software we use in the district right now that we have 2,000 or 2,500 seats, and it's $5 a seat. And we have video, digital design, photography, graphic design, game art design, students using this, so it's across the board better. I'm hoping that you should adopt a better deal for that. The anti-gravity treadmill, the cost of that could put treadmills at all sites to support all students, and done just that one thing could have helped others. We don't need all of this for the 200 students. I'm also concerned that there was only one RFP, and it's the same submission for training lab, and I believe Alex's son was on the picture of the Insta that causes for concern for conflict of interest. And so if we don't have that picture, I'm not sure there's a conflict of interest, but there's that picture. And with only that one quote coming in, which, as Carrie noted in the, I think it was February, March, that it was very similar to what's on their webpage, that's also a cause for concern for conflict of interest. Not having a student rep here because we're in AP testing, not being able to get out, I think is not fair. Another teacher in one of the positions in this class, fortunately, I was in my prep, I can go back and do work after this to make up for the time I missed getting grading and other things done here. One of the busiest times of the year. I hope we delay the vote until there's actual transparency with the numbers and people are actually responding to whether you like them or agree with them or not across the board. Thank you.
Dr. Chernus, members of the board. My name is David Radlauer. My family and I have collectively lived in this district for almost 150 years. It's difficult to trust someone who defends a mystery project by telling the public that it's such a good deal. How can we say no? Forget the USI as a whole for a moment, and let's look at the turf field Dr. Chernus discussed at the last board meeting. Instead of addressing the fundamental questions posed by two members of the board, he told the public that such a field normally costs about $1.5 million. And this field was only going to cost about $115,000. So it was such a good deal, we should just approve the PO. Although it is true, Dr. Chernus, that an entire football field turf generally does cost between $700,000 and $1.5 million. But such a project covers over 1.3 acres, or 57,600 square feet. Talk about gaslighting. The area in question at the Casa Loma location covers less than 4,000 square feet. It is not a full football field. It is a small area being converted to 3 short running lanes that can barely accommodate a couple of windspans. The entire surface area is less than 1/10 the size of a full field. No wonder it costs more than 90% less than a full field. That's not comparing apples to oranges. That's like comparing a watermelon to a grape. See why we were having trouble trusting you? I opposed the partial estimate and did not want my tax dollars being used for a project that is being largely hidden from the public. This emergency meeting itself is a disgrace, especially after being promised a budget and, quote, plenty of time to discuss the merits of this project only 7 days ago. You gave the public 24 hours notice to review a nearly 100-page bid that does not address the overall cost of the project, i.e. staffing, maintenance, insurance, etc., nor any funding projections. Additionally, it appears you set this meeting at a time you knew few would be willing to be able to attend. The public should also know that when the superintendent represented at the last board meeting that he could not estimate the cost of this project before receiving the proposals at the last board meeting, the superintendent already had the single bid in his possession for at least a week prior. This is the antithesis of transparency.
And our last speaker is Reagan Rothery.
I stand here, am I good? I don't even need it. I stand here and find it interesting listening to Andy talk about hit lists. Hi Andy, nice to meet you. I've appeared on your show without my consent or knowledge multiple times. Yes, sir. Still, I'm saying go.
Excuse me, ma'am, please address the board.
For the board, Alex, we have gone to you repeatedly with questions regarding USI and other charters, and you have not answered any questions. When we have made meetings with principals, you have canceled them in writing. And really today, I think what is important is to see the continued cloak and daggers that our board operates in and how unfair and inappropriate use that is of our money and the future of our children. We speak of the Training Lab LLC. I'm sure everyone here is aware that the Training Lab LLC has been suspended by the State Franchise Tax Board since 2018. According to the FTB, this means they're not legally allowed to do business in California until they address it. They were also suspended separately by the Secretary of State in 2018. They addressed the SOS suspension a couple months later, but the FTB suspension was never corrected. Is this not a concern to any of you? I hear Carrie has brought it up. For the rest of you, this seems appropriate. A use of your time that is fair and equitable. I think that we talk about pictures of kids, and pictures for Alex's kid were put by himself in his own approval by a program he himself is pushing through. You guys aren't listening to the parents. And I tell you what, it is not just 5 or 10 of us that you think don't want this. You need to stop cloak and daggers. You need to do the parental rights and transparency you claim to stand on. And you need to keep politics out of our children's education.
I'm Reagan Rothery. I also oppose the USI. I think that entering into a voidable contract with an entity that is not in good standing with the California Financial Tax Board, I would imagine that that's somewhere in the bylaws of this entity, that you're not allowed to enter into contracts with entities that are not in good standing. If that's not, I would definitely recommend that be something that added to the bylaws, because it seems like that's a really slippery slope to getting into serious issues. But this entity has been in existence since 2016. They've been out of compliance with the Franchise Tax Board since 2018. I understand, but I'm not here to cape for the Franchise Tax Board by any means. It is an administrative hurdle to file a statement of information. It's generally not that big of a deal. So I do think they could cure this, and I think it would probably be something that they could cure relatively quickly for bureaucracy, like, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks. So I would say there's no need to sign a contract for this entity that's not in good standing until they cure that. I would not want to enter into this contract, period, because I don't think that this is a good use of money. But the termination clause is clear that ultimately there will be the ability to, without cause, cancel this contract with 20 days notice to the training lab, which I hope will happen when this board is flipped in November. And also, I think this is something that is an arbitrary timeline that you, Alex, started. You wanted this to start next school year, but it didn't have to. You wanted it because you wanted it. And now here it is, and we find out that this entity you want to enter into contracts with is not in good standing with the state. Why? Why would we push this through? What is so special? I mean, I know they were the only ones who responded to your very specific RFP that they themselves helped you create. But you didn't have to do this. This is all of your own volition. This is all self-made. So I think, if anything, you should pause on signing this contract or having it signed. I know you're not the signatory, but signing this contract until they cure their standing with the state. And ideally, this wouldn't go through, but I know better than to think that you guys aren't going to push this through. Thank you.
Thank you. All
Okay,
right, so I'm gonna turn it over to Dr. Chernus now.
all right, thank you, President, ladies, members of the board. Just a few things here. One of the questions that has come up is why now? Why do we have a special meeting to do this? And why is it 3 p.m.? So, first of all, there's precedence here for the board to have special meetings, and it's usually either 3 p.m. or even earlier. In 2021, board superintendent goals, 3:30 p.m. on May 6th, 3:30 p.m. on June 29th. November 1st, 3:30 p.m. board and superintendent goals. 2022, April 29th, 9 a.m. special meeting. 2023, April 22nd, 10 a.m., April 19th, 10 a.m., April 8th, 9 a.m., March 25th, 9 a.m., March 15th, 10 a.m. So I find it, again, ironic, not really, that here we are at 3 o'clock and all of a sudden the board is, questioning about having a special meeting. Now, with respect to, I was notified by council that the company did file the paperwork they needed to. They are in good standing. It takes up to 2 weeks for their state, website to update, but we have confirmation from council that they're in good standing.
Don't expect.
As far as this project, and so I have not disclosed budget because we don't know what the budget's gonna be until we got the bid. Now that we have the bid, what we're presenting to you is a partial acceptance of this bid. This would be the first phase, which would be all the equipment that is being installed in the facility. So why now? Why not in June? Well, we wanna start the year with the kids in the school. If we wait till June, we will have a challenge opening the school in time. So that's why we're having a special meeting. The RFP ended May 1st. So here we are today. I do want to share, because I got an email last night about this project and I found it very interesting because I completely forgot about this. But it is from a teacher in the district, and she emailed Dr. Young and I in July and said, I'm writing you, inquire if we looked into starting a middle school sports academy. OC Sports Fundamentals at El Rancho is in Anaheim, and she goes into how we're losing kids to this school. And I sent that email to the board so you all have it. And that was from July 23rd. And I've never talked to this woman since. And so she wrote this email last night and said, I'm forwarding this to Dr. Chernis, the email from July of 23, to a comment I heard in the public at the last board meeting from an adversary of USI. She said the community didn't ask for the sports academy. I wanted evidence that the community has, not only in email, but also in the evidence of students leaving PYL for neighboring schools and private institutions that offer sports academies. If you need names to fact check, I'm happy to provide that. That said, this past year, 5 students left BYMS for OCSF at El Rancho, and 1 from Travis that I know of. They're just students I know. The list lengthens with students who have left PYL for competing academies. Additionally, I attended the first portion of the board meeting last week to support my incredible Avid standout. My son accompanied me because I had to pick his AAU basketball teammate, who should be at BYMS, who went to OCSF, and take them both to basketball. Instead of watching me take pictures with my student's family, I encouraged him to stay and watch for a few minutes, have an interactive lesson in school district civics. He texted me, Mom, the guy in charge is talking about the sports academy. When I went back inside to grab my kiddo, Dr. Chernis was presenting a slideshow on USI. I stood in the doorway watching my sweet, hardworking son, who has written argument essays attempting to convince my husband and me to enroll him at OCSF. The same kid who received personalized videos from the OCSF director telling him they're ready to join, absolutely smiling ear to ear with excitement for everything Dr. Chernis was presenting. Then I looked around as the negative snickers and jeers from more seasoned, many retired voices in attendance were deafening. I wanted to cry. How could they have such a critical voice in my son and other children's opportunities to pursue their passions? Why are they attempting to stop something amazing for so many of our students? Look at this kid, the kid this program was designed for. There are many of him in our community. How can you be so unwilling to explore the idea, especially when we are late bloomers in creating such a program? Things change. That's a fact we all have to adjust to constantly. Thank you for those leading USI for exploring the option and trying to find a way to compete with everyone around us. Thank you for, I pray, keeping my son in our district who will hopefully return to PYL-USD or not leave for academy opportunities. And it goes on and on, but I wanted to share that because we hear about it's my idea, and why am I slamming this through? The reason, again, we're here today is to serve students. And the reason it's now and not in June is so we can get ready for the school year. The equipment on this RFP is equipment. There are no structural alterations to the facility. And given the equipment on the first phase of this RFP that we're looking at, Mr. Stein and I, along with purchasing and our facilities team, have gone through line by line on all these items. We believe that these are all appropriate expenditures. With the use of developer fees, again, about $1.2 million in developer fees. The last time the board made such an expenditure, it was $1.25 million in developer fees for Glenview. That never went to the community or the board. There was no board meeting about it, no special meeting about it, no discussion about it. So here we are, the same amount to equip a facility that currently houses the Buena Vista Virtual Academy, which loses over $1 million a year, closer to 1.5 in the current facility. So the proposal is to repurpose this facility, continue with the virtual academy, repurpose this facility using equipment purchased through developer fees. We already have 60 kids that have applied, and the vast majority are in the district. We're also talking about, as I mentioned the last meeting, we're partnering with a company that does fitness for special education students, BC Adapted Fitness. We'll be bringing them on board and serving our special needs kids at this facility. And we're also talking about ways to serve all of our kids, having classes after school. For example, there'll be agility type training classes for middle school kids for 50 to sign up, can go take the classes. So it's gonna be a great program. I thank all the people that reached out in support of the program. Lastly, for those in attendance that, if you are in attendance or if you're listening, that had anything to do with putting my son on your website in order to make an argument, it's very unfortunate that adults need to do that and put 9-year-old kids' pictures on their website to try to make a point or to try to make an attack on me or harass me or my family. So I don't appreciate it. If there's any board members in communication with those people, I don't appreciate that either. And so we're gonna move on from that. But I definitely take exception to calling out little kids to try to make a point. I myself have been to the training lab. I've never spent a dime at the training lab with those people. I've met the owner. The owner's a parent. He's had 9 kids go through this district. It's a good local family. There's no business relationship between my family and his. But I will tell you, there's no better family I've met. Their son was a valedictorian last year, one of 9. And so to go after them, rather than award this bid to Walmart or something like that, I mean, this board should be commended for the opportunity to award a bid to a local company doing good things for the community. And so with that, we stand behind this proposal, this bid. If it gets approved, we'll move forward and we'll be ready to open in the fall.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move to our action item for business services. Now we'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion to award RFP number 224-15 for consulting services in the purchase of installation of equipment for the Universal Sports Institute to the, how do you say that, training lab, effective May 14, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Youngblood and a second from Mr. Frazier. Does anyone want to discuss this? You want to start us off, Todd? Or
Sure.
would you like to start at the end? We need to make sure we have everybody has equal time.
That's fine.
Okay, go ahead, Carrie.
Thank you. The comment about if I know the people on the website, I don't know who they are. The fact that you looked at me, I find very offensive. I take that personally and, I don't appreciate it. Yes. So, I did get, my phone was blowing up today about franchise tax board, so I looked it up and, to confirm for myself, because I don't just assume. And it states there that the entity is not in good standing with the franchise tax board. So, we received a letter from the teacher that had sent you an email in July, but we didn't get a copy or anything from the attorney that you mentioned that said that that's in good standing. So I need a letter from the attorney saying that he checked it and it's confirmed by him that they're in good standing. I'm just not going to take that at the word at this point.
So I just,
Wait, I'm
Oh, no,
kind of in the middle of my few minutes to
Oh, I
talk
know.
about this and then we can, please don't interrupt.
give her a shot, that's fine. That's fine.
So the second thing that I just want to mention is the Department of State Architecture. This project is over. This
Despair before I had an LCAP study session, and I went to that, and I was not given this information early. I was not even informed of this meeting until yesterday, and I want to know how you expect me to have plenty of time to review over 100 pages and be prepared. I have a life, and I schedule time in my life for school board to make it a priority, but if I don't know to schedule time off, then how am I supposed to do my due diligence? I had appointments this morning starting at 8 a.m. and I finished that one at 12:30 and then dove into this. So this is really not enough notice to be prepared. I don't feel like I'm prepared, and I don't like that. I like reading everything, but this is what I've come up with so far. I continue to ask for information, including construction budgets, personnel for specialized equipment, personnel for other things, including physical therapists, sports psychologists, athletic trainers. I see in this proposal, it pays for one athletic trainer for $80,000 a year. what are the hours? How many hours is that one trainer gonna be working? I believe in the May meeting, but of course I didn't have time to double check, you said that it would be used for USI from 8 to 3 or 7 to 3, is that correct? Yeah.
I don't know yet the exact time.
Okay, and then it's gonna be used in the afternoon, you said in the last meeting from 3 to 8, for other sports groups to go in. So we're looking at 12 to 13 hours a day for one trainer.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to figure out, because we don't know the hours of the trainer. And I had Annette print out the cost, and the cost came out like itty bitty, and I haven't had a chance to look at it. So I wanna know, what is the cost per hour for the trainer and for the consultant? What does that come out to be? And for how many hours to add up to the 1,000?
It's not broken down into hourly.
So, but we don't know how many
It's
hours,
an annual amount.
but we don't know what that, is that 10 hours, 8 hours?
It's not broken down, it's for a full-time person. So the assumption is it would be a full-time person.
And
So,
on that, like this trainer that you're talking about, is this a physical trainer? Is it a trainer of the coaches? Is
Yes,
it
it's a trainer to train the staff on the software system and how to integrate it with the students, on the equipment, how to use the equipment. So it's more of somebody that will help teach the employees there how to use the equipment, the software.
okay, so in this budget so far, then we don't have any costs yet for personnel to actually work it, just to train?
That's correct.
So that's all additional. We don't have a budget for maintenance for equipment or liability insurance. I see in the proposal that they have to provide liability insurance, but we all know that that comes back to the district. So again, before I can approve something like this, I need to have budgets. I thought it was interesting that USI was gonna be a program that the district was gonna create, and we were gonna brand it. And I think it's interesting now that we're paying for a licensing fee. So we're really not creating our own program, we are just paying a company to provide this service to our students. And so if we're not.
That's not correct. We are creating a program. And so we are partnering with them.
But we're paying a licensing fee.
So we can use their name along with USI. We are also going to be partnering with BC Adaptive Fitness for special education services. We will likely be partnering with a strength and conditioning coach to oversee the conditioning for the kids. So there'll be several partners that we're looking at.
and I believe there's also training on software with the heart rate monitors and trackers that all the data is gonna be compiled,
That's correct.
which is training on.
Yes.
That's a separate
But
item.
we are creating this school. We will have partners. This is one of them.
Okay, there's no budget for these people. So we have, right now, we're purchasing equipment for something that we don't have, how many people are going to be doing it, and how much they're gonna cost. It seems like we've got this backwards. We need to have a full budget before we can approve things like this. Also, last Tuesday, seems so long ago that we had a meeting. Dr. Church, you said that we had a DSA approval and you received a letter from that. And I asked at that meeting if you could give me that documentation.
What I said was we received a letter from DSA saying, and to Carrie Buck's point, there are requirements for construction. There's no DSA requirements for putting equipment in, just like there's not DSA requirements if you put $1.5 million in computers or books in a classroom. This is equipment. There's no structural alterations to the facility.
Okay, I asked to get that letter and I didn't receive it. So,
We were emailed that.
I got it, all of us, the whole board.
Yeah.
We all got it.
From DSA?
I will go back and check, I believe so.
Yes, they sent it to them and they sent it to us.
Okay, I don't remember seeing it. And, I mean, I left town on Thursday.
Yeah.
And there was
Again, this
plenty of
is,
emails in my inbox.
this RFP is for equipment only. There are no structural alterations. It's like when you do an RFP, you purchase books or you purchase technology. You don't, when the DSA deals with alterations to buildings, we are not altering the building.
But we are putting in turf, and turf is,
That's not part of the building, it's not attached to the building.
but it is part of a DSA.
You're incorrect. It's not a structural alteration to a building. I don't know what to tell you. I've had people contact me, we've had people try to call DSA, I've had people call me about endangered birds, I've had people call me about trees, I've had people call me about asbestos. People are trying to find every way to slow down this project. We are going through every legal way to make this appropriate and benefit the students in this community. And so whether nothing I say, you're gonna obviously change your mind, but I can tell you that we are following all the legal provisions necessary.
Well, I would just like to, when is phase 2 and phase 3 going to be rolled out?
Definitely not by September. And so the reason we're here with this RFP is to get the equipment in, so we'll be ready to start in September.
Is phase 2 anticipated to be in the next school year, or is that depending on?
I believe so. Phase 2 is more about the recovery side. And so a lot of the equipment, a lot of that we talked about, we don't necessarily need to open this facility. What we do need is what you have before you today, to outfit this facility and get the kids in it. As I mentioned, we already have 60 applicants. We think we can have up to 200. And so it's gonna be a real benefit to our kids and our families. So there's obviously a lot of excitement about this program. And I think part of that excitement is frankly showing up in our enrollment. We're 500 over where we were at this time last year. I don't think that's luck.
Okay, are we gonna get budgets for phase 2 and 3? Cause I was trying to figure out all the different phases and the costs. And again,
Yes,
in my couple hours this afternoon, I didn't have time to do that.
we will.
When will we have those budgets?
Well, for phase 2 and 3, I can't tell you yet, but what I can tell you is once we put together a staffing proposal for the facility, we'll be sure to bring that to the board. That's the last piece to open the school. Phase 2 and 3, like I said, will be post September 1st.
Phase 2 and phase 3, we won't have any information until after September?
I think I can't tell you for sure. I think we're gonna take time to study the needs for the recovery side. But I think what we need is the actual facility ready for kids to come and train.
Cause I
And
see,
so that's the goal.
cause I see the recovery side, you know, we're doing oxygen tanks and all sorts of things, pools, and that's huge. So I would love to see that information as soon as possible.
Well, you have the information on the bid. The question is, what part of that bid do we wanna do? And what
Exactly,
don't
that's
we?
what
And so that's why you have phase 1. And we need time to be able to evaluate whether we wanna add the other pieces of the bid or rebid them separately. Or, like I said, recovery center would be the second phase.
Yeah, because the list that came from them was the entire everything, the whole kit, went top to bottom, phase 1, 2, 3, whatever phase 1 we're into. And then the appendix that we got was the proposed phase 1 that we're voting on today, the 1.2. Right, so the question is.
I understand.
Right, so the question is, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. The question is then, what is phase 2 and what is phase 3? I would also ask, based on if this gets approved and we start it, then we get to evaluate, well, do we need phase 2? Do we need phase 3? Which, because we get to decide what parts are missing and or needed to continue to get better, right? So, which means to me that we don't know exactly what those are going to potentially be.
And it's also my understanding
are the checks going to be written from for this initial phase of this contract?
Developer fees. We've already disclosed that.
Okay, I just wanted to get it on the record.
Sean, do we want to
And then-
come back to you if we have one? Let's give everybody equal time.
You know, I have some more questions and I'd just like to finish my comments for once. And, thank you. I'm almost done.
Okay, thank you.
So also I was looking at the funding. And on page 3 of this proposal, it lists those out. And it comes to 1.236, and then in exhibit B, the same things come out to the 1.231. And I'm just wondering why there's the discrepancy from page 3 to page exhibit B. And on the memo, it has what is exhibit B, but the expenditures on page 3 are different.
I can't answer you that on the fly. I can tell you this proposal's recommended for approval.
Okay, on page 3
Of the entire proposal?
of the title. On the appendage.
Okay.
On page 3 of the appendage. Like I said,
We'll note that question and get back to you on it.
There is a difference in tax rates used on the
Okay.
proposal versus what we actually pay here.
so is exhibit B the correct amount or is page 3 the correct amount?
What's in the, page 3 of our item, that would be the correct amount because we've calculated based on the tax rate here.
Okay, so even in this, on the memo, then we don't have enough money, is that correct? Because if you use,
It's a miscalculation.
if you add up page 3, it's off by, not a lot, but 5,000. And it says in here that in the contract that it would not exceed.
Right, so what's calculated here was calculated by our staff upstairs and it's based on our current tax rate. This would be the amount on page 3 that we're asking for your approval for.
The amount on the
On page 3 is
approved number.
more.
On page 3, what you're talking about is with the incorrect tax rate.
No, he's saying that page 3 is the correct amount calculated by staff. So the memo is wrong.
See, I think we're miscommunicating here, I think we're missing.
So by the memo, we're talking about the item that we take it forward. So this number right here, the final number is the correct number.
The one we-
Okay, so that's exhibit B. On page 3,
Yeah,
It's-
page
it's-
3 of 94.
page 3, article 2, when you add up those numbers, it comes out to $1,236,446.69.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, we've done the calculations.
Okay,
If you look item by item, you can see what the difference is.
yeah, I put them all in a spreadsheet because I was looking back and forth and they weren't adding up, and I was like, wait, so I put them all in a spreadsheet to figure it out, because I was like, this isn't right. So you're saying page 3 is the correct amount?
I think we need to define what you mean by page 3, because
Well,
there's a page 3 that Gary keeps holding up, that is the actual, our memo.
It's in the article 2, page 3 of 91, and it lists in here, the testing lab, the performance-based software, the CrossFit room, the weight room, the speed agility, wrestling mats, project fee, athletic, trainer consulting, the lab fee, and those numbers, when you add them up, are different than the memo. And maybe I'm
Okay.
trying to figure this out. I could made a mistake.
Your point is taken, we will look at that.
Okay. Also, just so everyone is aware that this 1.2 does not include the 115,000 that we approved last month. So that's an additional, really so far in the training lab, or the USI, we're up to 1.3 million. I just want everyone to.
You're reading the turf.
The turf, yeah. When you add that in. So, I just wanted to be clear of that. And then, so we had a lot of funds, other funds projected, out of developer fees. Flooring at George Key, the Valencia Kitchen, ongoing cost for portables, growth projects. And all of those were outlined in our November meeting that we had a workshop. And with then by 25-26 budget, we only have $170,000 left in developer fees. What is happening to these projects?
We can agendize those for the future, but I would say that developer fees are ongoing revenue streams, so I can't say that's all we'll have, because every year we get more.
Well, the projection last meeting was that there was I think we used $1 million for the current year.
Some years we get over $1 million, some years we get 1.3, it's every year we get different streams.
Have we moved any money in developer fees from that November projection into this project?
I don't believe so, not yet. We haven't
Besides the turf?
moved money, what do you mean by
Well,
moving
like had it designated for like Valencia Kitchen, for example, and then now we have decided to go this route.
Well, we haven't moved any money, no.
If this is voted on, then we have to shift that budget.
No, we won't, the budget is the budget.
Is
We
it
can
like-
agendize other projects at a different meeting, and
And
talk about how we can fund them.
And Valencia Kitchen was on there, is that still a plan?
We can still look at funding for that. Like I said, developer fees, we get
We
revenues.
could, or, I mean, that was what was planned in November.
Well, the board never approved any expenditure for it.
Well, that was the conversation, and that was the expectation, that we were gonna be working on a kitchen at Valencia High School that's been needed for years.
Well, we're happy, like I said, we're happy
So
to
that's off the
agendize
table?
that. Absolutely not off the
No, I-
table.
I don't think.
It's just not agendized today.
Okay, I'd like that agendized.
I'd like to know how we're gonna pay for it. And then,
Okay, no, we didn't move on, Sean, ask a few questions.
you know, I'm just about done.
You're just about second or just about done?
Just about done. One more point, but everyone's been pitching in, so it's not been me talking this whole time. I just want to be clear that El Rancho pays, the students that go to that sports training center pay $580 a month directly to them. The Fullerton Sports Institute through Delta is $10,000 annual fee per the school year for the 10-month program. So nobody else offers this. I mean, just the Fullerton.
Isn't that a good thing? Why do you wanna charge our families?
Because you're saying it can be paid for through ADA.
It
Delta
can't be.
alone,
They don't have the money in developer fees to fund the upfront cost of their facility. The ongoing cost for a school district based on ADA can fund the personnel. You seem bent on charging our kids. We don't want, it should be a good thing this is gonna be free.
no,
We
I
don't
think we
wanna
should be
charge them
helping,
$10,000 a
I
kid.
think we should be helping every student in our school district. We have, they we need to have public comment about parents having to raise money to pay for coaches, boosters,
Absolutely.
training and all of that, but we are not helping every student.
We are
We're
using
helping a
revenue
small
that the board never
portion.
had. The board never knew existed. It's
You
one-time
keep
revenue.
saying that, but I have known about this and I keep correcting
The
you.
board,
Did not know about the $43 million that was paid from the board.
you did not know about the
Did not know about that.
1.5 million in
No,
developer fees
it's
that you
in-
spent on Glenview. It didn't even come to the board.
It's been in the developer report forever.
You have
Because
to
we-
spend-
it was-
Board for approval.
So,
It,
look,
we
we're offering a
approve
free
it every
program for
December.
kids. This should be a good thing. We're using one-time money, funds that you did not know we had.
It's in the budget. It's there. It's not
Okay,
rocket
well, I'm
science.
committed to being the first school to offer it for free and not charge them 10K a kid.
Well, and the other thing I think that's a differentiator is the Delta people that are coming in and running the program. We're going to have Parkview staff, because there'll be PYL, USD trainers, teachers, and coaches that are actually running the USI, trained by this $80,000 a year trainer, that teaches them how to do the things that the training lab equipment, or, well, not training lab equipment, the equipment being purchased through the training lab is going to be used for. So it's a Parkview budget because it's part of Parkview, and these teachers and coaches that are gonna be coming on are PYL USC staff, which is completely different than the Delta setup or than the Rancho, because those people are brought in from the outside, which is why the students have to pay, which is a totally different setup.
And we're
Which we've
losing,
never seen again,
we
a
are
budget
losing
like that.
1.5 million a year in that facility today. So we are trying to take a negative and make it a positive. And we're not studying, we've never heard, let's study BBVA, let's close BBVA.
Well, if you're saying that we're losing money, we should do a study.
You wanna close El Camino?
Well, El
They
Camino's,
lose 2 million.
that's not a good,
No, I'm saying that we
Decision
should look at it and
Well,
see
I
where
agree.
it
agree.
is, because and
But the
Because-
goal of
and I
specialized
haven't-
programs
if
can't
you could
always
send
be
me
cost
that.
neutral.
if you could send me that PowerPoint that you use, so I can actually look at those numbers and
I'd be happy to. 'Cause specialized programs sometimes cost more money, as we see with El Camino, as we see with BBVA. So to say, hey, I'm not gonna approve this unless it's cost neutral is
I've never
completely
said that,
contradictory.
I just said that we don't even have a budget. We don't even know what it's gonna cost, we are
Well,
just spending money without having an end goal.
You have,
And
I
looking
think
at
DLA is a great example though of the exact same thing that we're doing. DLA was put forward as a great idea and a phenomenal program in our district, and it was put forward with $1.5 million of developer fees and staffed by Glenview teachers.
Right.
Like that,
Staffed by
which is exactly what we're doing here with this program.
And we've spent developer fees every year as this program has grown to buy the portables,
Yeah.
to increase the office staff. That's bathrooms and all sorts of things.
Yes.
And we have grown it, but this is starting something without any basic information. So
Well, but if
I will
Parkview-
not be voting.
Well, but if
this.
Parkview student enrollment goes up, that means Parkview ADA goes up, which means Parkview ADA pays for the teachers and the trainers and the coaches that are gonna be running USI, which is why it's completely different than Delta, than any of these other programs that are coming out, which is why it's unique.
And I would love to see those numbers. I would love to see how we're gonna pay for ADA as well as the staff at USI.
But their Parkview, the USI staff is Parkview teachers.
So you're saying that our current Parkview teachers?
No, there will be hired as Parkview teachers that are running USI, because it's a Parkview school, just like any of our other CTE classes.
Sean, is this just speculation, or you're just,
Well, so it's USI is a program at Parkview,
yeah, I
right?
get it,
So the,
but they're district employees, and you're talking
Sure.
about them being coaches at other schools, we're gonna transfer them now over to Parkview, I think.
no, they're going to be paid out of the budget from Parkview because they're part of Parkview's staff, however you wanna title that, right? They're paid for through Parkview ADA.
So the inter-district transfer that we're getting, we're just moving ADA around, we're not increasing anything, it's not actually impacting our entire district.
we are when we get kids from out of the district, that's new revenue.
Well,
Right?
Let's go.
Or in district that we're going to other schools, yeah, that have left the district.
But then aren't we also sending ADA to the other schools if they go to participate in the sports program? Are we giving a percentage of the ADA to them? Because these kids
For
take
concurrent enrollment.
for concurrent enrollment.
Sean,
Yes. Okay, my turn?
Your turn.
Oh, goodness, okay. I'm excited about this. I look forward to seeing it happen. I'm gonna vote yes.
I'd just like a couple of questions answered very basically. Was the RFP proposal handled according to protocol?
yes,
Okay, and there was only one proposal given. Do you have
Yes.
any idea why?
I can't answer that, and we have a lot of vendors that could have put in for it. A lot of this is, training equipment, but that was the only one.
Where was it posted?
Same place it always is, on the website, where else?
We put it in the newspaper and then we've actually reached out to a number of vendors as well to encourage them to apply.
Which newspaper?
So I have to check with upstairs, it's usually the register.
But you reached out directly to other vendors that potentially could have.
Purchasing department.
Well, and they're not you specifically, right? Got it. The thing that I think is interesting about that is this is I think, difficult for people to gather all of the pieces because it is unique. This is a different, innovative approach to a common or a new structure for athletic training. Which is why I like this combination here. It's being whether you look at IMG Academy which is huge and basically taking over high school sports and athletics, people can't even compete. People like Monterey can't even compete with those kind of schools, which are highly specialized and very expensive. To your point, the opportunity for students that would never get a chance to participate in those types of programs are going to get an opportunity here that they would never have otherwise. Which I think is why this is such a great opportunity for us to take a step. That sometimes when you take a step in innovation, there are things that we can't know every detail. We can't know every detail for sure. The cancellation clause, which I think is, I'm glad that it was brought up in public comment, that we can terminate the contract if there is anything that happens that we need to say, this is not going well, we have a problem, we need to cancel it. Specifically related to the franchise tax board. If you look on the Secretary of State website business search, you can look up all the statement information that have been filed. They have in the last 2 months filed those, you can download copies of them, and the process for the FTB to release that suspension is just a matter of time. So that's related to that. I mean, I deal with that all the time for clients, and I process statement information when they've been suspended, and that's just the process with the franchise tax board. And as was said, franchise tax board is franchise tax board, we can't change that. However, if we do have legal opinion on that, I feel comfortable with saying moving forward in that they have followed the steps. I've downloaded their statement of information so that they are current. So I know that that suspension should be lifted unless there was something else that was related to that we can't know about.
Do you get something, do you have different access than we do?
Well, so if you just go to the search, the California Franchise Tax Board website, did you go to the Secretary of State website?
Second stand, yes.
That's the Franchise Tax Board. The letterhead right there, Franchise Tax Board. If you go to
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State website, it's SOS Business Search is the best Google way to get there. And then you go to search and you type in Training Lab, it comes up with their LLC. You can download their recently filed statement of information. If I look right here, filed 5/2 of 2024, and you can just download it right there.
5/2.
Yeah. Well, but their 2023 was filed on October 30th of 2023. So I'm just saying these, yeah, it's right there. So those kind of things happen, and that's not something that I think is a concern to me. If it's something other than a statement of information, then I think that would be important for us to know. But it seems like based on this information that we have available to us, it's not something that would be extremely concerning, especially if legal has responded to that. The only other thing that I would have questions about specifically was as we are going into these phase 1 versus phase 2 versus phase 3, like some of the things are extremely advanced in that list. I don't know if they're necessary, especially for the younger kids, especially for the 3rd to 6th graders. Like we don't want them in hyperbolic chambers. That's not something that I feel is a good idea. I think there are levels of fitness for all the kids that's going to be specific, and the thing that I think is important is the specified training programs for each student. So I just want to voice my opinion and say I think that needs to be important and make sure that the parents are involved in all of that decision making so that they can feel comfortable with whatever level of training is being taken with their student. I think that's important. The statements about this being making a decision on this, meaning we are ignoring a large student population, I think is actually backwards. Because there is a large student population that has no ability to get to this type of training because it's expensive. I mean, most of us are parents up here that have had kids in sports at some level, right? It's expensive. We all know that. And there are kids that if they were able to have the opportunity, they could get scholarships. They could get opportunities outside of the things that they may be destined to be because of their situation that we can't necessarily change right away. So I think this is actually, it goes the other way in that we are actually helping a student population that wouldn't otherwise get these opportunities. It is a smaller percentage, understand that. However, just because it's a smaller percentage doesn't mean that we should ignore them. So that's my statement about that.
And that's why I feel like a good fix to this would be to hire strength and conditioning coaches at every one of our high schools, so that all our student athletes can participate in this. Not all of our student athletes have the ability to be homeschooled and have transportation during the day. And it's not, but if we have that built into our comprehensive high schools, then all student athletes can have those kind of benefits.
Sure, and I
Not
think-
just a special.
Totally agree, and I think that's why I'm excited about the potential of sports teams at the comprehensive high schools and the middle school sports students being able to be involved after the 3 p.m. time. And I think it's important that we set up a system that's simple to use, that's very accessible, and that can actually support even more students than the 100 or 200 that we're talking about from the Parkview program. I think that is a huge opportunity as well because of the type of equipment and stuff that's gonna be. I mean, I look at the list, I'm like, this is incredible. And if you were to try and do this at each comprehensive high school, it would be impossible. Like, you couldn't do that because of the type of equipment. First of all, the training to use the equipment is very specific. But the fact that we have a location that teams, students can be able to have access to is going to open up, I hope, a much larger group of students that are gonna benefit from this. So that's where I wanna make sure that we push and we have a good system. We make sure that we invest in something that is going to reach more students than we could potentially do with just the Parkview students, which I think still the Parkview Independent Study unique program that allows concurrent enrollment is one of the jewels of our district that I think is phenomenal. And the Buena Vista Academy is a part of that system. Now, something I think it's important to note, the Buena Vista curriculum doesn't qualify for NCAA. So there are some things that I think we should look into to be able to get the Buena Vista students to be able to participate as well. But currently, it's only Parkview students that qualify for NCAA with the way that the programs go with academics. So those were the questions that I think I had. And I think, I mean, at the phase 2, I think we're gonna, phase 1, I feel comfortable, like that's where we need to start. And then I think we need to evaluate where phase 2 goes, what that level of, if the training lab is working, then great. Otherwise, there's other partners, if the staff is trained and our coaches and our trainers are doing a good job, which I know that they will, then there may be other partnerships and software, even just the software component with the heart rate monitors and the data tracking and the logins and there's so much to this that we're gonna need training to make sure that we do it right. And then once we're trained and they have all that development, I think it's just gonna be, it's a great opportunity to set us apart in what we're doing here, so I'm excited.
Do we know how many high school students are student athletes right now?
5,000. Okay, I'm sorry, 4,600 and something, and then there was 300 and something middle school athletes as well that were also put into that equation. I'm also very supportive of this program. I spoke 3 different times at 3 different places in the past week, and everywhere that I've spoken, when I talk about the Universal Sports Institute, they all say, like, what an amazing opportunity. People have actually wanted to bring their students over to Parkview. We're getting a lot of our Orange, Irvine, and Fullerton are coming into our district for these type of opportunities, whether it be the charter school, whether it be USI, or whatever it is. And so I also encourage you, because I noticed, Marilyn, that you said last time that you had toured Fullerton and you had gone and spoken to all these people. Have you toured USI yet?
I sent Dr. Chernus a request for that last week.
Oh, so last week, after you toured Fullerton? Okay. I think you should tour USI.
No, I
Have
need to
somebody-
tour USI
Right.
and I gave it
Right.
to him on Tuesday.
Okay, so, okay. So I think you both should tour USI to get a bigger picture of what's going on, because once you tour it, it really opens it all up. Like the athletic directors and the coaches who went in and toured it, they said, wow, there's a lot more room in here than we thought. They look at the outdoor areas. I mean, we have a track behind there that's ours. We have a baseball field, Tommy Lasorda. I mean, we actually own City Hall. I didn't know that. And so this whole property we have at our disposal. And so there's just amazing things that can be done for our student athletes. And also too, we have a teacher that's working outside the contract that potentially could owe us $525,000. So since we're very concerned about money, are you guys interested in recouping those fees? We could talk about that in another time, because it seems like we're very concerned in some areas about money, but then we have other issues that are happening that, if we're this concerned about money, I think we should be looking at all areas. If we are concerned about the 1.2 million loss from BBVA and then also from El Camino, the 2.2 million, then maybe we should bring this back to the board and maybe we should start looking at ways that we can recoup the money, or if there's some new innovative ways, to change how we're doing things. Because I was shocked over the last 3 or 4 weeks when I learned that we were losing all of this money to the programs. I wasn't exactly expecting that. And I also think too, as we bring up points that this only services a few kids, like DLA services 400 kids?
DLA, you mean Glenview?
Glenview.
It's about 500, 400 or 500, yeah.
So we're willing to do this for 400 or 500 kids, and then, but we have 4,500 to 5,000 kids that can also use this experience. And so I think when we start saying that we want to pay for certain kids in certain programs, but we don't want to pay for others, I think we should be willing to say let's pay for everyone. Let's make a way for all of our students, and not just certain programs that maybe only services 400. Because if we look at this program, obviously, if we can potentially service 5,000 kids in our school, I think that that's probably the most kids that we serve in a specialized program. And so I just know that there's a lot of community excitement about it. The people who've been accepted, I've gotten some texts and some emails saying how excited they are, that their student athletes are going to be able to try something new. Especially after COVID, a lot of kids came back to school and they weren't doing as well. So a lot of them prefer Parkview, they prefer BBVA. And so I think that innovative ideas and doing what the new students, or not new students, but just doing what is good for students and what makes them successful. I think that's what we should be a district that's all about. So with that, unless there's any more questions.
I just want to make a comment on Glenview and the DLA. We took that as a 2-year process. We traveled as boards and went and visited different dual language programs. We had a full study session about moving through that process, and it was slower, and we had tons and tons of community input before we did that. So it's apples to oranges when you compare those kind of things, when you look at the process of how that happens.
I wasn't comparing the process, I was comparing the number of students, and BBVA was done on consent with zero budget.
I'm saying this could have been that way too. It's just rolls so fast, and I don't feel like that there's enough information from the community or for me personally to get to this point that fast.
So when BBVA was on consent with no budget, did you feel that you had enough information?
That was something that was a change that was in process, part of it because of what was happening in the state and during COVID and switching to virtual academy. My daughter attended La Entrada, which is what it was before, and I love that school. So yes, we had lots of conversations about that.
Okay. All right, well, let's call for a vote. Carrie Buck.
No.
Marilyn Anderson.
No.
Mr. Sean Youngblood.
Aye.
Todd Frazier.
Aye.
And I am an aye. The vote carries 3-2. And we will call for adjournment. All right, I have a motion from Mrs. Anderson, a second from Mr. Youngblood, and we will adjourn at 4:19. Thank you for coming.
Excuse me, if you are parked by the school buses, can you please move? Our bus driver needs to park.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
than the one generation that they have. And if you would have asked me, I would have said, no, you need a more. It's managed for those kids who are in the program. They're not able to stand. So we want this program to succeed, right? Or then we're gonna have to shut it down because now we're gonna be limited. I don't know.
Sorry, he just left it on a little bit longer to see if there was going to be any fireworks. See you guys. Thanks for watching.